The School for Whatnots. Chapter 46. Did you guess that Max's mother was child X? This is amazing. I can talk freely about this now. I guess it's because she revealed what she'd done. Anyway, I'm talking about it now and nothing's stopping me. It's all true. Nowadays, Mrs. Sterling is known for her kindness and her gentleness and her charity work and her friendliness to one and all. And for the way she always remembers that Nurse Beverly's favorite candy is dark chocolate with orange peel, and she gives it to her often. But she was once that horrible, nasty, unbearable little girl who made my life pure misery. What can I say? People change, sometimes vastly for the better. Her apology? That helped. I wish I'd known she'd been waiting all that time to find me. I wish I'd known she was looking for me. I wouldn't have tried so hard to stay out of her sight for the past 6 years. I wouldn't have avoided every single possible meeting between the two of us. I wouldn't have stood at the back of all of Josie's plays and concerts. I wouldn't have arrived late when the house lights were already down, or slipped out early before any of the rest of the audience turned around to go. Or maybe I would have, because of how I was designed, how I was coded, what I was supposed to do. People can change, androids can't, unless we're programmed to. Or unless we can find a way around the programming. Chapter 47. Max speaks up. So now you can let us out, Dad said to Lola. He laid both hands on Max's shoulders and gave a reassuring squeeze. It was like a secret code between Dad and Max, Dad saying, "Don't worry, I've got this under control." Max remembered Dad telling him once, when Max was struggling with math homework, "It's not a bad thing for you to learn that some subjects are more challenging than others, or that you need to work hard. But math, I've got hundreds of people who work for me who are much better at math than I am. I respect them for it. I trust them. But I need them to trust me too. What I really need to be good at running my business is people skills, psychology. That's the business. That's what the business world really runs on. Everything I do is about figuring out people. Those are the equations you'll truly need to learn." Max guessed Dad thought he could figure out androids too. "I see that there was some lesson you thought my family needed to learn," Dad went on, his gaze drilling into Lola's, "because of your history with my wife. But I can assure you, Max has always been kind to his whatnots. This girl can tell you. She and Max were truly always the best of friends. Josie, can you help us out here? Can you explain to your older counterpart?" Dad still thought Josie was an android. Even after everything that happened, even with Josie standing right in front of him, Dad couldn't see the truth. Max jerked away from Dad and went over to put his arm around Josie's shoulders. He kind of wanted to put his hand on Josie's ears too, so she didn't have to hear Dad. But Josie would hate that. "Dad, Josie is real," Max said. "Human, like me, like us. Yes, Lola is an android, and Mom still should have been nice to her, but Josie isn't like Lola. Just look. Look close." There was a rustling sound, Lola moving even nearer to Josie, who had also put her much closer to Max. Max couldn't tell if Lola was trying to show the difference between her and Josie more clearly, or if she was concerned that someone might actually hurt Josie, trying to prove she wasn't human. Max saw Mom and Nurse Beverly both start to open their mouths, and Max could only guess which side they were going to take, what either of them might say about Josie. He could only guess because in that moment the ceiling opened up again and another wall appeared. This one was clear, not silver, but it seemed thicker and stronger and heavier than normal ordinary glass, plexiglass, or acrylic. The wall fell straight down, precisely dividing everyone in the room into two groups: Max, Josie, and Lola on one side, Mom, Dad, and Nurse Beverly on the other. And Max couldn't hear a single thing anyone on the other side was saying. "Mom! Dad!" he shouted. "Nurse Beverly!" He pounded his fists against the wall, but it was completely solid and immovable. He looked up and down on both sides, and the wall filled the whole space between him and his parents and Nurse Beverly. There wasn't so much as a crack he could press his fingers into in hopes of prying the wall away. But he could see Mom and Dad and Nurse Beverly pounding their fists against the opposite side of the wall. He could see them looking for cracks too. He could see them screaming as well, and even though he couldn't hear them, he could read their lips well enough to know the most important thing they were saying. Again and again, what they kept saying was, "We love you." Max felt a new hand on his shoulder, Lola's. "Max, I'm sorry," she said, and she truly did sound like she meant it. "You'll want to stay close to Josie for this next part." "But I didn't." Max couldn't get the words out, but it was like Josie understood, because she took his hand and faced off against Lola. "He didn't think he was making a choice," Josie said, speaking up as bravely as ever, which was so like Josie. "He wasn't saying he chose me over his family. He wanted us to be on the same side." Lola leaned forward and hugged them both. "I know," she said. She seemed to be fighting so hard to say more. She clenched her jaw, relaxed it, and tried again. "I don't make the rules, but at least this separation is only temporary." She let go and took a step back. "I think you triggered something too, Max," Josie said. "We both did." Something else fell from the ceiling above, a see-through cubicle this time. It encircled Max and Josie and Lola. "Oh!" Lola exclaimed, gazing about as if she were even more stunned than the two kids. "Uh, I didn't think I'd be included. I thought, this changes everything." "Changes what?" Max asked. "What's happening?" And then the floor vanished beneath them. Chapter 48. The narrator's aside. "Seriously, you want an aside now? You have got to be kidding." "I don't. Keep going. Let's see what happens to Josie and Max and me next." Chapter 49. Josie's ride. "Oh!" Josie squealed. "This is an elevator. That's all." It was such a relief to recognize anything happening around them. Her mind kept throwing questions at her. How is it possible for a clear see-through elevator to suddenly form around Max and Lola and me? How is it possible for the floor below to disappear, and then before you have a second to free fall, an elevator door appears in its place and starts carrying us down and down and down? And most of all, where was it taking us? All she could see outside the elevator now was darkness. Josie decided it was better not to think too deeply about any of that. Instead, she turned to Max and said, "Remember the glass elevator from Roald Dahl book? Remember how we spent so much time trying to figure out how that would work because we wanted to build one just like it?" But Max wasn't cowering the way she expected him to. He didn't need the distraction. In the dim glow of the elevator, a light which, as far as Josie could tell, had no actual source, she could see. Max didn't have tears trembling in his eyelashes. He wasn't blinking hard to hold back tears. He didn't even have the beginnings of tears pooling in his eyes. Instead, he was drilling his gaze into Lola's eyes in a way that made Josie think of Max's father only moments earlier. "What did we trigger?" Max asked. "What are we all being included in?" Lola pursed her lips. It looked like she was simultaneously trying to speak and trying to keep her mouth shut. I can't say," she finally managed to utter. "We'll just have to wait and—" They landed, all three of them, bending their knees to dip down and jerk back up with an unexpected impact. Josie tried to calculate how far they'd gone. It had felt like more than 2 stories. Was it 3 stories? 4? 5? And maybe part of the time they'd also been zipping in a horizontal direction? "I know this school building like the back of my hand," Josie said. "I know that there weren't any secret staircases leading down to extra basements below where I slept. I know it never had a see-through elevator. There wasn't an elevator shaft beneath the principal's office or—" "Oh, Josie," Lola said sadly, "you didn't even know that I existed." Max patted Josie's arm, as if she was the one who might need a distraction, the one who might be about to cry. The elevator door split open. It was only a whisper of movement, and hard to track with only the dim light and the darkness, but it felt more like a pea pod opening than an elevator cap. A pea pod or a clamshell or a flower bed, something natural. Max and me, 2 peas in a pod. But Lola's with us now, too. Max kept his arm on Josie's arm. Josie reached out and linked her arm through Lola's, too. And then all the lights around them came on. Chapter 50. Max, trying to understand. "It's servers?" Max asked. "Are we in the control room of the whole school? Or maybe the whole planet?" Ahead of them, he could see towering cabinets full of interconnected wires and cables and silicon chips, what he thought of generically as computer stuff. His class had had a field trip once to the local power plant, and they'd walked through a room as big as the school playground full of cabinets like this. This room made that room look tiny. Max and Josie and Lola had ended up on a raised platform that allowed them to see out over the cabinets, and the cabinets still seemed to go on forever. Max turned to look in every direction, and he couldn't see an end to the cabinets. It felt more like they stretched on to meet the horizon. How could an underground room be big enough to have a horizon? A control room would have the cabinets in rows, Josie said. These cabinets are like a maze. Or a labyrinth? No, it's a maze. It's a test, Lola whispered. The only way out is through. Were Josie and Max supposed to find a way out through the jumble of cabinets? Max couldn't remember the difference between a maze and a labyrinth. Did one of them have more ways to get lost than the other, and more ways to get trapped? The way Josie spoke each word, mazes had to be worse. Maybe it's like a trick question, Max suggested. An illusion? Maybe all we have to do is shove over the first wall of cabinets, and then all the others will fall like dominoes, and then we escape. He felt a little proud of that he'd come up with an idea before Josie, but Lola shook her head. In the bright glaring light, her face went pale. The mechanical section bleached almost white. Please don't try to break anything, Lola said. Those cabinets should be indestructible. But if there's a breach, then everything falls apart. Someone could. Someone could. Once again, she seemed unable to speak. Max suddenly knew the word she couldn't say. Die. He wanted to whimper out all the names of the people he was worried about. Mom, Dad, Nurse Beverly, Josie, me. But he took a deep, steadying breath instead. Lola can't always fight her programming, he told Josie. She tries, but she's not allowed to tell us everything she knows. Josie tilted her head to the side, considering this information the way she considered the caterpillars building their cocoons in a classroom tank, or the planetarium guide during field trips telling them that they could see stars better if they didn't look at them directly. Lola, we can trust what you're able to tell us? She asked. Can we believe you? Lola looked down. You can? On this, she said. Max tugged on Josie's arm and peered deep into her eyes, trying to signal, what if Lola can't help lying about whether she's lying? Josie winced, but she still squared her shoulders and said, then if we have to go into the maze, we have to go into the maze. Max watched Josie stare off into the maze of server cabinets as if she were memorizing all the twists and turns. Max relaxed a little. Of course Josie would do that. He let her lead the way down a set of stairs from their platform to the floor in front of the maze of server cabinets. But then Josie turned around. Pebbles, she said. Hansel and Gretel. Had Josie gone crazy now, too? Then Max realized what she meant. You mean we need to leave something to mark our trail so we don't get turned around, he said. He tried not to think about where Hansel and Gretel had ended up. But Josie, we don't have any pebbles. We don't even have any breadcrumbs. We have our clothes, Josie said, so that means we have lots of thread. Lola was already holding out the shawl she'd wrapped around her shoulders. Oh, that's perfect, Max crowed, because that's an extra thing, not your main clothes. Josie and me, since we're just wearing shorts and t-shirts, we'd get really cold if we had to start pulling too much a part of our clothes. It's cold in here anyway, don't you think? I guess it's because we're so far underground, and I guess too it's because computers need cooler temperatures. Josie pulled a strand of yarn out of Lola's shawl. She held the shawl up to her mouth and bit off about a 2-inch length of the yarn. Then she dropped it to the floor. The instant the yarn hit the floor, a rumbling noise started overhead. And then Max felt his hair standing on end. His t-shirt flapped so hard against his skin that it felt like it was being ripped off. Even the skin of his face was pulled upward. Why didn't you warn us? He turned to shout at Lola. Why didn't you tell us we'd have to face a maze and a tornado? Chapter 51. Josie, burdened. The yarn Josie had dropped flew up and disappeared high overhead, and then the rumbling noise stopped. Josie's hair and t-shirt settled back into place, mostly anyway. She had a feeling her hair was sticking up in bizarre ways and her shirt was twisted sideways. She straightened it and quickly ran her fingers through her hair. That wasn't a tornado, she told Max. who looked every bit as disheveled as Josie felt. It was a vacuum cleaner. Watch. She yanked a single hair from her head and dropped it onto the floor. Instantly, the rumbling sounded again, and Josie's hair whooshed straight up. But a second later, everything was still again. Oh, Max said. This is the server room. It needs to be sterile. A piece of yarn, a thread, a hair, all of those endanger the computers, so they get sucked up instantly. Yeah, Josie said glumly, so we might as well be dropping breadcrumbs for the birds to eat. Lola touched the broken part of her face. You can't see it from the outside, but maybe I have pieces on the inside you could drop, she said. Screws, bolts, things heavy enough that they wouldn't trigger the vacuum. Josie felt a little like she'd been asked to become a cannibal. We need you with us whole, she said, and Max nodded. A chime sounded in the distance, and Josie jumped. Did that mean something? Max asked. I think you passed the first part of the test, Lola said, a shy smile creeping over her face. You protected me. We would have done that anyhow, not just for the test, Josie assured her. But how many more test questions are there? Lola only shook her head. Max was hyped, though. It's okay, he bragged to Lola. Josie's got a real good memory. We don't need to drop anything to mark our path. That was just like insurance. Josie probably only needed to look at the maze once, and now she's got everything figured out. Josie rolled her eyes. This was like some group project when she had to do all the work, but everyone would get the same grade. But then, she was only a fake whatnot, and Max, no, she wasn't pretending to be a whatnot anymore. Max, we're both going to need to work like it's not going to work like that, she said. We both need to pay attention. We both need to keep track of where we're going. Oh, Max said, his voice uncertain. I'll try. That was all Josie could ask for, wasn't it? They kept moving forward, deeper and deeper into the maze of server cabinets towering above them. Left turn, right turn, left turn, left turn. Then they reached the end of what Josie had been able to see from the platform. Do you think it'll be the same pattern of turns from here on? Josie asked. Lola, isn't there anything you can tell us about the maze? Max shrugged helplessly. Lola fingered the broken part of her face and winced. Just be careful, she whispered. Just keep. Josie, Max said, grabbing her sleeve and pointing. He was pointing to the server cabinets forming the maze around them. They were all 8 or 10 feet tall, and full of not wires and cables and motherboards, but also random blips of light flashing on and off. Only the lights weren't random now. They pulsed at time with Lola's words. It's connected, Josie said. Lola, are you controlling that somehow? Or is it controlling you? Or she couldn't get another question out because suddenly the lights seemed to jump to the surface of the cabinets. They took over the cabinets as though the cabinets were now just a huge endless screen showing a video. And the video was of Josie and Max when they were in first grade? Second? In the video, their faces towered 4 or 5 feet tall. Josie could see every tiny freckle on her video self's nose. She could tell Video Max was about to lose one of his front teeth, and Video Josie and Video Max were fighting over animal crackers. I get the lion cracker, Video Josie said. No, I do, Video Max said. Video Josie snatched up the animal cracker before Video Max had a chance to. She crammed it in her mouth and chewed, sneering slightly to Video Max so he could see the cracker mush through her teeth, so he could see what he was missing. Did I really do that? Josie wondered. It seemed like she must have. It felt like a moment she sort of remembered. Max, I'm sorry, she said. I shouldn't have been such a brat back then. I don't know why. Max wasn't listening. He was staring at a screen on the cabinet on the other side of them. Video Max was sitting behind Video Josie in their third grade classroom, and he was peeking over her shoulder. Video Max hit choice B, or Video Josie hit choice B on the tablet she was holding. Video Max hit choice B on the tablet propped on his own desk. Max, did you cheat off me in third grade science? Josie asked incredulously. Just that once, Max protested. I think it was only once. The videos changed, swirling into a kaleidoscope of awful memories. Video Josie pushing Video Max off a swing. Video Max spilling finger paint on her favorite sweater. Video Josie yelling, "If we don't play what I want, I'm going home." Video Max telling Jack, one of the other kids in their class at school, "I'm not playing with Josie anymore. She's mean." Josie and Max, real Josie and Max, both started backing away from the videos. But the videos were showing on every cabinet around them, and ahead of them, behind them, beside them. "No, no, I didn't," Max gasped. "I'm sorry. But how could you have done that when I—" Josie couldn't even tell which specific scene he was talking about, or which awful thing one of them had done to the other she felt maddest or guiltiest about. The video kept playing, on and on and on, each one bringing a stab of pain. Because each one was true. Every single one of those scenes really had happened. Max whirled around and took off running, as if he could no longer bear to watch or listen. Josie wanted so badly to take off running in the opposite direction, to get as far away from Max as she could, and maybe to find some place where the videos weren't playing. But Lola seized Josie's arm and pulled her toward Max. "We're all lost, unless you can keep together," Lola said, "and keep perspective. Forgive. Remember." "Remember what?" "Oh, that Max is my friend. That we got over all those bad moments years ago. That if we had a million good times for every bad one—" Josie and Lola took off running after Max. Josie listened so hard for his footfalls over the sounds of the videos. Video Josie was slapping Video Max now. Video Max was screaming, "I hate you!" Josie caught a flash of Max's brown hair ahead of her, just as he turned a corner. Josie launched herself after him in a giant flying leap. Her shoulder clipped the cabinet, and she ricocheted. She knocked into Max, knocking him down. She fell on top of him. "Leave me alone!" Max snarled, shoving her away. "Max, we can't let those cabinets ruin us," Josie argued. "We might as well fail this test if it's going to stop us being friends." She realized she was arguing with the wrong person. She leaned back her head and screamed at the cabinets around her. "Stop it! Stop it! None of these videos matter!" The cabinets instantly went blank. Their innards showed again, wires, cables, motherboards, randomly blinking lights. They were, once again, nothing but a bunch of servers. Distantly, Josie heard a chime. Lola stood above Josie and Max and stretched out a hand to help them up. "You passed," she said. "You passed the second part of the test." Josie had never seen such a giant smile before on anyone's face. "We passed," Josie said. "We couldn't have done it without you."